Optimal CFO on today. I hope that you're having a great day and all is going well for you. I want to do a deep dive with you for a few minutes to briefly discuss about financial statements. And so, is your church or school preparing for an audit? Are you familiar with or have a basic understanding of financial statements? Do you have the support or the team in place to provide and prepare those financial statements for your upcoming audit? Hi, I am Loie Watkins, and I'm a virtual CFO and accountant. I partner with private schools and large churches like yours to manage the finances and accounting so that you can thrive, prosper, and fully carry out your mission. As an accountant for 21 years and a decade in nonprofits, I have received several requests from board members, banks, auditors, and grantors to submit financial documents. I know that nonprofits such as churches and independent schools have a fiduciary responsibility or obligation to provide financial statements. And so, to give you a little bit of information or brief description of financial statements, they objectively tell the financial state of an organization. As you know, although churches and independent schools do not pursue a personal financial gain, they do have a responsibility to provide financial statements so that funds that are raised and spent are reflected to show how they support or serve the mission. So I want to deep dive into 4 financial statements for your church and private school. The 4 are a statement of financial position, statement of activities, statement of functional expenses, and statements of cash flow. These financial statements are specific to nonprofits. And of course, we'll talk about the other types of, or the correlation, how those financial statements are equivalent in for-profit. There's a lot of similarities in accounting with for-profit and for-profit and nonprofits, but there are a distinction mainly between for-profit, of course, is to generate earnings or profit, and nonprofits is just simply to support the mission or a cause. And so the first statement, the financial statement that we'll talk about in detail, is the statement of financial position. And this financial statement is equivalent to a balance sheet. You may have heard that before, but it's equivalent to a balance sheet. The statement of financial position, it presents the financial position and it outlines the assets that you own and the liabilities or debts that you owe. And to get further into the detail, assets include cash, property, building, and equipment. And in the case of independent schools, accounts receivable is considered an asset. And an example of in accounts receivable for a school will be tuition payments that are due. Liabilities include accounts payable, which are bills or loans that's owed, or mortgage note are a few examples. And so within a statement of financial position, as we discuss or explain, there are assets and liabilities. Assets are those items or investments that you own. Liabilities are debts that you owe. And so also included for a nonprofit in the statement of financial position is a section called the net assets. And nonprofits are required to report net assets. When listing net assets, you just have to identify whether the net asset has a donor restriction or no donor restriction. When there is no restriction, it is called or classified as unrestricted donations. These are donations that do not have any restrictions specified by the donor, and so those funds can be applied to however the nonprofit, your church, or your independent school most need those funds. On the other hand, restricted donations are restricted by the donor to a specific purpose. A donor may say that these funds or this donation or grant is restricted to the building fund or professional development or technology upgrades or a school program such as STEM, or even a ministry program, a specific outreach, maybe specific to the homeless ministry or global missions. Those are restricted donations when a donor specifies that. And so the second financial statement, what we just reviewed, was the statement of financial position. And so the second one is statement of activities. And this financial statement is equivalent to the income statement. You may have heard that. The statement of activities shows the revenues and expenses of your programs. So revenue is the inflow of cash or the funds that have been received to support your mission. Examples of revenues for churches and private schools include tuition, donations, fundraisers, grant funds, tithe offerings, giving contributions. Those are all examples of revenue. An expense is an outflow of cash or cash that's being spent, monies that's being spent for an item, a service, or a cost required for your church or private school to operate. And so we talked about statement of financial position, statement of activities, and the third financial statement is statement of functional expenses. This statement lists your expenses by function, such as program costs, administrative costs, or fundraising. Those are just a few examples. Or it may list it by type, such as salaries and benefits, rent and utilities. And so the statement of functional expenses pretty much list out in detail your expenses. It's definitely a great or a useful tool to have when just really reviewing your expenses. And we'll talk about that at a different time, some things to look for when you're analyzing your expenses. And then the fourth financial statement for your church or private school will be the statement of cash flow. And this is probably, well, all of them are definitely important, but this one is tremendously important because it's helpful to review each month to see how your financial or your cash position is for your organization. And so the statement of cash flow, it measures the change in cash. It provides information how funds are managed and used for everyday expenses. And so again, even though nonprofits such as churches or independent schools are not in it for profit, they're simply to serve their mission, to provide or serve a cause and provide services to communities, to students. It's still imperative to know how your financials are are aligned, or how your finances are doing, so that you know what's available for operating. Financial statements can surely help your organization to manage the accounting and financial operations with fiscal responsibility. It's so important and so critical for banks, donors. When they look at your financial statements, to see that they are in compliance and that you are administering or managing the mission of your organization, of your church, of your school in a responsible manner. Also, financial statements demonstrate the transparency of how churches and independent schools are supporting and serving its mission. So if you have any questions, I'll take those questions. Feel free to, I also want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our Facebook page at theoptimalcfo.com. And if there are no other questions, we will see you on the next live. Take care. Have a great day.